A Plaguelands Media production.
So I'm going to continue kind of talking about exactly the Call of Cthulhu campaign, going over our session notes and letting you little Plaguelandians kind of know what's going on. But before I do that, I just want to address something really quickly. I'm not going to go into specific rules. There's only a few points in all of our sessions where I think it would be pertinent to explain a particular rule, but I'm not going to go into who rolled what skill they were using or anything like that, because I want this just to be about the story. There are a lot of rules videos out there. If you don't know the game, I would consider looking at Seth Skorkowski's breakdown of Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. It's really, really fantastic. But I'm just going to be flat out telling the story. So with that said, let's get right into the next session. So after the last session where the body dropped on the front of Mort's car, they decided to stage the scene to look like a car accident and then just hightail it out of there, deciding to head to Hibbs Roadhouse on foot to get something to eat. Once they do manage to get to the Roadhouse, as they enter, Mort sees a man sitting alone at a table who is eyeing him very suspiciously. They're just about to go over to confront this man when Max sees Paul Rogers, the gentleman who has apparently been selling these drugs to the students of Miskatonic University. A chase ensues where Max chases Paul Rogers out the back of the diner, and Mort steals a bicycle and then promptly falls off the bicycle, but ultimately they end up catching Paul. They take him back to the diner, where they make acquaintances with the man who was sitting there staring at Mort, a gentleman by the name of Felix Fuda, who believes that the head of the esoteric order of the Silver Twilight, a man named Carl Stanford, has sent Mort from Boston to kill him. Mort assures him that this is not the case, and Felix gives Mort a key to the Orne Library, where at Miskatonic University, where they hold all of the esoteric tomes and things like that. So they have their dinner, all the while keeping Paul captive. Paul is absolutely terrified of these two. They take Paul back to his house, trying to question him about this drug. They find a torn slip of paper that has some information on exactly how much Paul is making from selling the drug. Paul actually refuses to acknowledge that it is a drug yet. He says it's just ink, a special ink that he sells to students. There's no test that can prove that this thing is actually a drug, and that is where we left off session 4. Session 5 begins with Paul Rogers, or at Paul Rogers' house. Paul has been handcuffed to the foot of the bed, and Mort and Max are, after having discussed what the hell is going on, they decide to get some shut-eye. But they're awoken later by Paul screaming that there is something at the window, something's making a scratching noise, and he keeps saying the name Jacob over and over and over again. So Mort and Max release him, and they decide to take him out outside just to confront this thing. They are planning on, well, Mort is planning on using Paul as a human shield, because that's just the sort of cop that he is. So with guns drawn, they go outside to see what has been making the noise. Pardon me. And they see it's the creature that was flying around and dropped the body on the car. This creature, for those of you who are wondering what it is in fact a night gaunt. It is swooping down, trying to grab Paul. Mort fires at it and hits it. tries to fire at it again, but his gun jams. Max, on the other hand, gets some shots in, but while this is happening, the Night Court grabs Paul and flies him up into the sky. They go back inside the house. Mort finds another gun, and they lure the creature out into the backyard, where they promptly manage to defeat it. However, it has dropped Paul from a great height, and Paul is dead. Not knowing what the hell to do with this creature and wondering if the gunshots have alerted anyone in the general vicinity, they go next door and knock on the door, and the person that answers is a World War I veteran called John Hanley. Now, John comes over to the house. They get John kind of over to Paul Rogers' house, wondering, is John going to be shocked by this? But John has actually seen something like this before when he was in World War I. And he is very appreciative of them for confirming his suspicions that things like this do exist. He tells them that they should go and speak to Professor Armitage at Miskatonic University about this. He's really wanting to know what the hell it is and where it came from, and if the investigators of Mort and Max let him know what information Professor Armitage can give about this creature, then in exchange he will take care of the body, although Paul Rogers' body is something a little bit different. So they go back to John Hanley's house. There's a little bit of awkward flirting with John's wife. And ultimately what happens is they get a little bit more information here because of the piece of paper that they found in Paul Rogers' house has part of a logo of a meat packing plant on it. And John Hanley's wife recognizes that logo as an abandoned meat packing plant outside of town. So they borrow John's car and they head off towards the meat packing plant. Probably not the best idea to do this in the middle of the night. As they get there, Max decides to park a fair distance away and proceed in on foot. So they come to this huge building. There are doors along the side, two a little further apart. Some of them have light underneath and some of them do not. Mort, being the gung-ho Boston cop that he is, decides to break the door down, one of the doors with light underneath it, and he shoulder barges the door and promptly falls flat on his ass. They hear voices from behind the door. Max goes back to the car and starts it up, and he's got the intention, if anyone comes out here causing trouble, he's just going to run them over. Mort tries the next door as Max is bringing the car around. But as he does so, a large man with a gun comes out of the previous door and basically demands, leave the property, you're trespassing. He fires a warning shot at Mort, not intentionally aiming to hit him, but kind of just trying to scare him away. And then behind this big man, there are two lackeys with baseball bats that come out to kind of make good on this threat that basically Mort's in deep shit if he doesn't get off the fucking property. Mort is trying to talk his way out of the situation, doing a little bit of his fast talking. Max comes plowing down with the car and swerves to hit the man with the gun. The man, before the car hits him, gets a shot off. The bullet hits the car and wings off, but he does manage to dodge the car at the last minute. The two men with baseball bats see what just happened and went, fuck this, we're out of here, and they just run. So with his back to Mort, this gunman is now opening fire on Max in the car, and he gets shot in the back by Mort. He doesn't die immediately, but he is unconscious and he's bleeding out. Mort and Max decide now is the best time to go into this meatpacking plant. They go into the open door and they'd find an office. There's a small light and a cot, so someone has been sleeping here, but everything is coated in a thin layer of dust. There is an open door ahead of them. They presume that leads to the actual warehouse part of the meatpacking plant, but it is completely dark inside. They can hear a high-pitched voice that's referring to someone as the provider, like I am the provider, and laughing in a high-pitched giggle. After a little bit of back and forth about what to do, a night gaunt, another one, appears from the darkness coming into this office, and Max and Mort, by this stage, have had enough of these fucking things, and they just gun it down. The voice in the darkness keeps repeating a name, Ib Still, and then as they're preparing, Mort and Max are preparing to kind of go in there, something slithers out of the darkness. It's a creature made up of kind of animal bones, cattle skulls, pig heads, sheep skulls, all held together by like a black tar-like substance, very similar to the one in the vial that got smashed in the speakeasy. As soon as it appears in the doorway, Mort takes one look at it, drops his gun, and just fucking runs. Max stands there and fires a few shots into this creature, dodging these like oily appendages that are coming out to slap at him, but the bullets don't do anything. So he backs off and he shuts the door and he climbs into the car. The creature smashes the door down and slithers outside. Max is basically trying to reverse the car, but he only just managed to slam into the side of the plant, and the creature's appendages smash through the windows, latch onto the car, and basically try to flip it. He tries to drive away. As he does so, the car flips over from these appendages. It hits, starts to roll towards the plant, and like hits a tree, and then starts to roll towards the plant. And as it does so, Max slams his head and falls unconscious. So the previous session ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. So at the beginning of the next session, Mort, with his bout of madness, realizes that this creature can be defeated with water. He knows this because it starts to rain and he watches the creature drag itself back into the meatpacking plant as bits of the tar are falling off of it with the rain. He rushes down, gets Max out of the car. They find an unlocked door and carefully go inside it and discover that it is basically the shower facility where the factory workers, after they've been working at the meatpacking plant, go in there to get cleaned off. So he starts running the water and they kind of stay in there until daylight comes up. The sound of sirens kind of brings them out of their stupor. Max wakes up and they see Officer Sorensen arrive. Apparently, John Hanley had gotten word to him, and he comes, and one of the thugs that had the baseball bats and that was going to attack Mort is actually in the back of the police car. He wouldn't comply, so Sorensen basically just ran him down. He makes amends with the two of them after not believing them earlier, gives them a couple of shotguns and tells them that, look, this is beyond my expertise. I'm just going to follow your lead. So they enter the factory. It's now more brightly lit. There's kind of lights coming through holes in the ceiling and things like that. And they hear the sound of chanting coming from somewhere to the right. They see a figure. This is Jacob Dover, the Jacob that Paul was kind of repeating his name over and over again. He's standing over a large vat and he's chanting. And over this vat, there is a small rift in the air, and black, kind of the black tar stuff is dripping down into the vat. There are some black tendrils in the vat that are kind of emerging and kind of moving around and things like that. I don't know why my camera's going in and out of focus, but there you go. Is that better? No, that's worse. Doesn't matter. Okay. So there's also some bones and skulls in this thing as well, and they recognize this is the creature that kind of attacked them earlier. Mort goes up to confront Jacob. Jacob is actually on a balcony above this kind of vat, metal kind of stairs leading up there. Max shoots the creature. Again, it doesn't work. And then he basically just says, fuck this, and shoots at Jacob and basically shoots him in the leg. Sorensen freezes up at this point. He's freaking out a little bit, but he ends up following their lead. Mort grabs Jacob, manages to drag him down the stairs as the creature starts to emerge from the vat again. And this time the tendrils are attacking everyone. They're attacking Mort. They're flailing at Sorensen and Max. Now they start to retreat. Max finds a room in the slaughterhouse that's got like animal skins and buckets of rancid water. Mort gets Jacob out of danger while Sorensen tries to help, but ends up getting smacked down by one of the tentacles. So they finally end up throwing these buckets of rancid water on the creature, and that kind of dissolves the thing, and it ends up killing it. Now, at this point, they kind of realize that this is the drug, and they know that they've put an end to the threat. They tell Sorensen that they're going to deal with it, and they ask him to leave, which he does. And then they basically execute Jacob, dump the bodies in the slaughterhouse, and burn the whole thing to the ground, which, as you'll find out later on, is kind of their MO. And ultimately, they end up back at Hibbs Roadhouse as the morning progresses, and they order burgers and begin planning their next move. This concludes this story arc, which was from the Doors to Darkness 7th edition adventure collection. I could have ended it there. It was a great time, a nice kind of well-rounded self-contained story, but we were enjoying these characters too much, and I dangled some plot threads out to them which they wanted to follow, so we ended up just kept going. So this is basically the end of campaign journal 1 for this kind of story arc, and I will get into campaign journal 2 at a later date. Until then, if you like the video, like it, subscribe to it. We have more things coming up, more videos coming up, so keep an eye out for that. Stay safe. Thank you for watching.